Well, happy Holy Saturday. Holy Saturday, everybody. Well, this year's marathon or observances of various people's holy days. We focus mostly on the Thelemic holy days and the classic Christian holy days leading up to their big day tomorrow, Easter Sunday, uh, which, if you look at things universally, we're all celebrating this time of year. I'm going to uh, share just a couple little things today because tomorrow is a deadline for me. Uh, I don't know if I've shared this with you before, but my many years ago, I wrote a novelette, I guess you would call it, uh, called Accidental Christ, and it was fun doing it, but it was sort of uh, short, and all I wanted to do was to tell one little simple episode. So I didn't even plan on it being a book, but it turned into a book. But it was privately published and such because my other main publishers didn't weren't into fiction, and but I was encouraged to actually turn it into a more bona fide, expanded novel, and it is being published by my good friends at Llewellyn, and it will, if all goes according to the timeline, we'll see it uh, this time next year. That's how long it needs to get in the pipeline. Be that as it may, I set myself the deadline of getting uh, the expanded manuscript to them by tomorrow. So while we're going through all of this Easter discussions, I'm going through that exact same period in my book. So I've sort of been overwhelmed uh, with that whole uh, environment, and so obviously, as all writers are, I've gone a little crazy. Yes.
Yes, Lon spent a lot of his time with Jesus.
Yes, I've been spending a lot of time. I tell Constance, excuse me, got to go to Jesus. Working on Jesus. Got to get him crucified today. But anyway, and I hope you look forward to it. And even if you've read the thing that came out 20 years ago, uh, you'll want this one too. I just know, I think, because I'm really having a good time with it. So it's Holy Saturday. This is the day that Jesus went to hell. I don't cover that part in the book, and I got to remind everybody, okay, that the doctrines of anybody's religion, didn't spring Minerva-like, fully formed out of the skull of deity or the founder of the religion. It's developed over time. Uh, Lots of people went into tweaking the story. So if we're looking at trying to set up a magical or philosophical formula off of anybody's religious story, foundation story. Don't kid yourself that it was created in an instant. And no, it developed, it evolved, it devolved, it altered, it changed, it mutated, often according to very, very mundane and sometimes unworthy influences. So if you look through the four Gospels, which were written many years after the alleged historic events, you don't even find the story in those four Gospels about Jesus going to hell to do anything. At least I don't believe so. It's in later stuff. And the doctrines of Christianity as we know it today are really the doctrines of this guy named Paul. Now I got multiple bones to pick with Paul, and as I think we all should. But that's a subject for another time. For magicians, we observe everything ultimately as a communication of God directly to our souls. So even a spurious piece of a pernicious document can be for us, and ultimately should be for us, a direct communication of God to our souls. And in this particular case, Jesus getting crucified, killed, dead, and then going to hell to release the prisoners trapped in hell can be viewed very easily from a brand new aeon point of view as the old formula of the dying God dies, and all of the souls that have been trapped by the old formula are now set free. You could look at it that way. From a magical point of view, also, just look at the first thing that Abramelin tells you to do the moment you get your holy guardian angel. You raise your consciousness to the level of the holy guardian angel, and you and the holy guardian angel are one, and you are vibrating at that Tifereth level. Your heart chakra is opening, and it's going out of your head, as Constance says, like a sprinkler of a rotating sprinkler of light coming out of your head. And the first thing you do is you go to hell. You take your head sprinkler and go directly to hell. And you get those guys working for you instead of against you. So there's all sorts of ways to look at things. And I didn't mean to go off on any of this. Excuse me, I digress. I just wanted to spend like 5 minutes and then go back to my novel. Go back to Jesus. And it occurred to me that exactly 10 years ago, I was encouraged by my good friends and publishers at Weiser to curate and hang on, let me get this going here. To curate and edit and introduce a series of books or material that influenced me in my early years. And it was called the Weiser Magical Antiquarian Curiosity Shop. Okay, and they're all electronic. This is all on Kindle. Okay, it's a Kindle series, and I did a series of them. And one of them, actually, I was hoping to talk about two of them today, but I got caught up in Jesus and fucking Paul and all. Uh, one of them is the astral world. Now, Constance and I both are at this awkward age. We were born before television was popular. We in a sense, and we were both raised in Columbus, Nebraska, and Columbus, Nebraska, in the late 40s, 50s, even into the 60s, still had one foot firmly in the 19th century. Okay, sure there were cars, but the whole atmosphere was very rural, was very provincial, and it was a person from the 19th century would have been comfortable in the world of Columbus, Nebraska in the 50s. And so we've always sort of felt that we had one foot in the 19th century. When I got interested in magic and spiritual things, it was all through the writings, the words, the soul of Victorian age mystics. And so that sort of puts us at the juncture of the old aeon ending and the new aeon beginning. And it is no coincidence, I think, that when I first started getting interested in this stuff, it was through the writings of 19th century, late 19th century, early 20th century mystics and magicians, Aleister Crowley included. But anyway, I started getting a little LSD sort of kicked things off, and then book shopping did the rest. I'm going to read my little introduction to this thing called the astral world. And the whole title of it is The Astral World, Its Scenes, Dwellers, and Phenomena by Swami Panchadasi, who we would later find out is William Walker Atkinson, who was also called Yogi Ramacharaka. And all of those Yogi Ramacharaka taught us how to use an enema and all sorts of other wonderful things. Okay. This is for astral world. Do you ever dream you were flying, or that you were running effortlessly, taking huge leaps through the air and landing painlessly, then springing forward again as if you weighed nothing? Do you ever find your dream self walking up a flight of stairs or up a hill, and then suddenly feel your legs becoming heavier and heavier until eventually you can't seem to move at all? Since I was a child, I've had such dreams. I'd fly through the air as if it were as natural as breathing. I'd stretch my arms out in front of me like Superman and watch the scenery pass beneath me with perfect optical perspective. I'd feel the exhilaration in the pit of my stomach. Then suddenly it would dawn on me, I'm flying. How can this be? Then, as if I were being held aloft by pure, unquestioning faith, my doubt would destroy my flight abilities, and I tumbled like Icarus. Almost everyone has had dreams of flying or falling, dreams in which you float in the air or breathe underwater. Such dreams are a common and universal human experience. For centuries, Eastern mystics have maintained that such dreams are more than dreams. They are called the strange, they call the strange and surreal environment, the dreamscape in which these adventures occur, the astral world. Toward the end of the 19th century, the subject of astral projection became of special interest to Western mystics, especially those inspired by the works of various Indian yogis and Madame Blavatsky and her Theosophical Society. Astral travel and traveling in the spirit vision also became the cornerstone of the practical work of European ceremonial magic adepts, most notably the magicians of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. It seems that much of the serious work of a magician must do takes place while out of the body. Taking the Egyptian Book of the Dead as their operations manual, these modern magi set to work to educate and exercise the astral body so thoroughly they could leave the physical body at will. A skill that once mastered could be the central secret to overcoming death itself. Today, students of human consciousness and modern researchers are sounding like these ancient occultists when speculating upon the power of the human senses to transcend the limits of the physical body. There's perhaps no aspect of magic and mysticism that is more fascinating and important than these out-of-body experiences, OBEs. And one of the finest introductions to this amazing subject is Swami Panchadasi's 1915 classic, The Astral World, Its Scenes, Dwellers, and Phenomena. I found my copy of this little gem in 1972 at Gilbert's bookstore in Hollywood. It'd be nearly 2 decades before I would discover with any level of certainty that Swami Panchadasi was actually William Walker Atkinson, and that Atkinson was also the legendary Yogi Ramacharaka, whose works had first introduced me to occultism in 1967. The more I find out about this remarkable mystic and writer, the more I realize how indebted we all are to his work. It's with particular pleasure that I bring my patrons here at the Magical Antiquarian Curiosity Shop, The Astral World, Its Scenes, Dwellers, and Phenomena. So I wrote that in 2012. See, what time do we have here? Okay, I'm going to read what I originally wanted to share with you, and it's directly related to Yogi Ramacharaka too. And let me get you the title page. Light on the Path. Now, and the full title of Light on the Path is a treatise written for the person's use. I'm trying to read it off the screen. The treatise written for the personal use of those who are ignorant of Eastern wisdom and who desire to enter within its influence. Now, it's said by M.C., okay, but later we find out that that is Maple Collins. Now, for me, in 1967, I was ignorant of Eastern wisdom, but I desired to enter within its influence. So when I found this little book at the suggestion of Yogi Ramacharaka, I snatched it. And because it was so small, and because it was so tiny, and because it was formatted almost along the same lines as the Tao Te Ching, which I was also struggling to figure out what the hell that was about, it was very attractive to me. And it is a little gem of late 19th century, early 20th century Western occult wisdom that if you're not familiar with it, please take the 20 minutes it takes to read it or longer and treat yourself. Here's my introduction. The years between 1875 and 1904 stand as a watershed moment in the history of spiritual movements. It was the moment when the sublime mystical sciences of the East cautiously reached out to touch the awakening consciousness of the materialist West. And for a moment, it looked as if the meeting heralded the beginning of a beautiful friendship. The year 1875 saw the births of both the Theosophical Society and Aleister Crowley. But it was also the starting gun of a migration of what they called at the time Oriental ideas and an assortment of gurus to the shores of England and America. In 1893, a World's Parliament of Religions was held as a part of the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. Excuse me while I digress. While we hear a lot about axial periods of time, epochs, where human consciousness and humanity and civilization seems to for some reason take a quantum leap forward, there are smaller little axial periods. A commentator on the 1960s once called it, labeled an essay, 1968, a crack in time. Another one of these cracks in time took place in Chicago in 1893. Lots of stuff happened. When you hear about, when you read autobiography of a yogi, Yogananda talks about this moment when Vivekananda just came to Chicago in a turban and blew everybody's mind. This was one of those moments, this World's Parliament of Religions. The 2-week event was the first major interfaith conclave of both Eastern and Western traditions. Christian Science's Mary Baker Eddy was in attendance, as well as Swami Vivekananda. It could be argued that the ecumenical New Thought, New Age, mind, body, spirit movements of the 20th century first were born in Chicago in those warm days of September 1893. It must have been a very exciting time, a season that held the promise of a world united by the common bond of those sublimely simple and universal principles at the heart of all religions and spiritual movements. Tragically, the insanity of World War I would all but strangle the spirit of this enlightened optimism, and the decades that followed would more darkly cloud the visions of all but the most die-hard esotericists. The birth of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn in England came in 1888. And in the years that followed, a number of documents began to circulate in magical and theosophical circles. For all appearances, these works had been poised, waiting in the wings, as it were, for precisely the right moment to be published. In 1897, Mather's translation of the Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage was one such text that caused a stir among English-speaking magicians. More than any other single work, it elevated the magical practice of the Middle Ages to the level of self-transformational disciplines of the East. But for the less flamboyant, the tiny book, Light on the Path, written down by M.C., materialized on the scene. It was instantly hailed as a modern sacred text par excellence. M.C. was the noted theosophist and prolific author Mabel Collins. She was born in 1851 and died in 1927. But she still did not take direct credit for the book. Indeed, although speculations still abound, it is not completely clear who might have dictated the text, or what the circumstances for its creation actually were. The work must stand on its own. It's breathtakingly eloquent in its simplicity, reminiscent of profound and subtle expressiveness of the Tao Te Ching. To understand this level of awe in which this little volume was held by contemporary luminaries, I can do no better than to refer to the introduction penned by Yogi Ramacharaka, William Walker Atkinson, which would later appear in the Yogi Publications edition of Light on the Path. Here's what he said. To many, this little book will be the first revelation of that which they have been all their lives blindly seeking. To many, it will be the first bit of spiritual bread given to satisfy the hunger of the soul. To many, it'll be the first cup of water from which the spring of life given to quench the thirst which has consumed them, the thirst which has consumed them. For those whom this book is intended will recognize its message, and after reading it, they will never be the same as before it came to them. As the poet has said, "Where I pass, my children know me." And so will the children of the light recognize this book as for them. As for the others, we can only say that they will in time be ready for this great message. The book is intended to symbolize the successive steps of the neophyte in occultism as he progresses in the lodge work. The rules are practically those which were given to the neophytes in the Great Lodge of the Brotherhood in ancient Egypt, and which for generations have been taught by Guru Tuchila in India. The peculiarity of the rules herein laid down is that their inner meaning unfolds as the student progresses on the path. Some will be able to understand a number of these rules, while others will see but dimly even the first steps. The student, however, will find that when he has firmly planted his foot on one of these steps, he will find the one just ahead becoming dimly illuminated, so as to give him confidence to take the next step. Let none be discouraged. The fact that this book attracts you is the message to you that it is intended for you and will in time unfold its meaning. Read it over and over, often, and you will find veil after veil lifted, though veil upon veil still remains between you and the Absolute. It will be noticed by you that the words of this book will remain in your mind, and it will become part of you. You will learn to love this book and will want it always with you. It will be as music to your soul. To those who know not this book, we would say that it is not our work, but written down by M.C., a student of occultism, presumably at the dictation of some high in authority. Its words and teachings bear witness to the nobility and grandeur of the soul who inspired it. To us, it is as a guiding star. May it be the same to you. Peace unto you. Signed, Yogi Ramacharaka. The wisdom of light on the path is timeless and as fresh and relevant today as it was at the turn of the 20th century. To both neophyte and adept alike, I offer my sincere hope that this little treasure will be a beacon of light on your path. Yours in Lightitude, Lon Milo DuQuette, Costa Mesa, 2012. Okay, I've gone way over. I took us on a detour with Jesus to hell. We're back now. Until tomorrow, Easter Sunday, when I fully intend to rise. Hopefully, I gotta get that manuscript out the door. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.